Okay, it is 6:17. I'll call this meeting to order. If everybody would stand, remove your hats, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, letter C is the new board members being seated on the board. I would like to officially welcome to the board Ms. Jean Adams on over here. Mr. Danny Nicholson, right over here by Mrs. Woodward. And Mr. Mike Parizek, and I told him I got to get used to him sitting down here instead of all the way back there in the back like I've seen for all these years. Welcome, Mike. Okay, we'll have roll call, please. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me. Would the three new board members come up here in the front of the table? And Deanna is going to come and stand at the lectern, and we will officially, publicly do the oath of office. All three of these individuals have done the oath of office with Deanna prior to the fourth Monday in April. But to make this official, and everybody can get pictures of these three while they're doing the oath of office. All right, roll call, please.
Jill Maddock Nelson.
Here.
Angie Schreiber. Kristen Matt Miller.
Here.
Oh, thank you, Angie. Yep. Kristen Matt Miller.
Here.
Abby Maddock.
Here.
Danny Nicholson.
Here.
Jean Adams.
Here.
Mike Parizek.
Here.
Danny Pyatt.
Here. Okay, letter E is district mission, and I have asked one of our newest board members, Jean Adams, if she would please go over the district mission.
All right, our mission is driven by purpose, guided by integrity, defined by success. Our vision is build a proud Anago community, and our motto is don't talk about it, be about it.
Thank you so much, Jean, for that. Item number 2 is the reorganization of the board. Letter A is the nomination and election of clerk pro tem. I will be looking for nominations for the clerk pro tem.
I nominate Deanna.
Nomination for Deanna for clerk pro tem. Is there another nomination for clerk pro tem? Third and final time, another nomination for a clerk pro tem. Nominations are now closed. Since we only had one person nominated for clerk pro tem, Deanna, will you accept the position of the clerk pro tem?
I will.
Thank you. Now we will do nominations of the chair pro tem. I will open the floor up for nominations of the chair pro tem.
I nominate Glenda Oginski.
Nomination for Glenda Oginski to be the chair pro tem. Second, is there another nomination for the chair pro tem? Third and final time, is there another nomination for the chair pro tem? Since there's only one nomination for the Chair Pro Tem, Mrs. Oginski, would you be the Chair Pro Tem?
I will.
Thank you.
At this time, we will open the floor for nominations for Board President. Are there any nominations at this time for Board President?
I nominate Mike Parizek as the board president.
Mr. Parizek, are you willing to serve as Board President if elected?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any nominations for Board President?
I nominate Danny Pyatt.
Danny Pyatt, are you willing to serve as Board President if elected?
Yes.
Are there any additional nominations for Board President? Second time, are there any additional nominations for Board President? Third and final time, are there any additional nominations for Board President? Okay. At this time, Deanna, the nominations are closed, and we would like for you to hand out the ballots to each board member, please.
Don't forget to give one to Nathan.
So Nathan will be casting the vote for Angie Schreiber, who will be voting by phone. So he will complete the ballot on her behalf. So once everyone has finished your ballot, fold those up and Deanna will collect those, and Deanna and Mrs. Fossbender will tally the votes.
So for the board president, we do have a tie, 4 for Mike Prezek and 4 for Danny Pyatt.
Okay, so at this time, I need you to hand out ballots again, and we will need to take another paper ballot vote for board president.
At this time, we still have a tie for the board president, 4 for Mike Prezek, 4 for Danny Pyatt.
Okay? For a third time, I need you to pass out paper ballots one more time to take another paper ballot vote for board president, please.
Is it appropriate to ask what, like, how this process continues if there continues to be a tie?
So per our policy, we have to vote at least 3 times. If it is a deadlock, and at that point in time, then we will have to move on and nominate the other officers for the board, and then the vice president at that point will have to run the meeting until we appoint an additional board member, and at that point, we will re-vote for a board president.
At this time in the third vote, we still have a tie, 4 for Mike Prezek, 4 for Danny Pyatt.
Thank you. So at this time, we will take nominations for the board clerk Do I have any nominations on the floor for board clerk?
I nominate Abby Maddock.
Abby, do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
Do we have other nominations for board clerk at this time?
I'll nominate Kristen Matt Miller.
Kristen, at this time, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Do we have any other nominations for board clerk? The second time, do we have any further nominations for board clerk? Third time, do we have any further nominations for board clerk? Okay, the nominations are now closed. Okay. Deanna will hand out paper ballots once again, and Nathan will be casting the ballot on behalf of Ms. Schreiber.
I will say while that we're finishing up this vote, these ballots are kept in the district office. It is open record after tonight, so you can receive copies of the ballots. They're kept from year to year per our record-keeping system.
For the board clerk, we have a tie. We have 4 for Abby Maddock and 4 for Kristen Matt Miller.
Hand out the ballots one more time, please.
At this time, the votes for the board clerk, we have 5 for Abby Maddock and 3 for Kristen Matt Miller.
Okay. So Abby Maddock is the board clerk. Okay, now we will accept nominations for the board vice president.
I nominate Gene Adams for vice president.
Gene Adams, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Are there other nominations for board vice president?
I'd like to nominate Jill Maddock Nelson.
Ms. Maddock Nelson, do you accept this nomination?
I think I'm going to decline it this time. Thank you.
I'd like to nominate Angie Schreiber.
Ms. Schreiber, do you accept this nomination for board vice president? Thank you. Are there any additional nominations for board vice president? Second time, any additional nominations for board vice president? A third time, any additional nominations for board vice president? Okay, at this time, Deanna, will you hand out the paper ballots, please?
Deanna, these are the wrong ballots. They say board secretary. Yours says. Oh,
Mine says secretary.
What's wrong with the rest of us?
you can toss all those away.
I'm sorry.
I have treasurer.
I just threw mine away.
I'll take it.
This.
At this time, for board vice president, we have a tie, 4 for Gene Adams and 4 for Angie Schreiber.
Okay. Please hand out the paper ballots again.
this time for the second vote, we have a tie, 4 for Angie Schreiber, 4 for Jean Adams.
Please hand out the paper ballots one more time.
At this time for the third vote, we have a tie, 4 for Angie Schreiber, 4 for Jean Adams.
Thank you. At this time, we will seek nominations for the election of board treasurer. Are there any nominations for board treasurer?
I nominate Jill Maddock Nelson as board treasurer.
Ms. Maddock Nelson, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Are there any additional nominations for board treasurer? For a second time, are there any additional nominations on the floor for board treasurer? For a third and final time, are there any additional nominations for board treasurer on the floor? Nominations are closed. Jill Maddock Nelson is our treasurer. For those of you that are seeing me on my cell phone, I am texting with our attorney to see at what point we can turn the meeting over to another officer. So while I'm waiting for a response, we'll continue with the officer nominations. Up next, we have the nomination and election for the board secretary. Nominations are on the floor. Do I have a nomination for board secretary?
I nominate Deanna.
Deanna, do you accept this nomination for board secretary?
I will.
Do we have any additional nominations for board secretary? Second time, do we have any additional nominations on the floor for board secretary? Third and final time, do we have any nominations on the floor for board secretary? Hearing none, you are the board secretary, Deanna. Up next is the appointment of a delegate and alternate delegate delegate to the 2027 WASB Delegate Assembly.
Point of order. The point of order is these appointments are made by the newly elected sitting president. Since we do not have a sitting president, we cannot move any farther in this discussion of appointments for the delegate or the alternate delegate or the appointment of the TIF, Tax Increment Finance District, the appointment of the representative for 3 years with CISA 9. So letters H, I, and J would have to be reserved until the 9th board member is brought on and we have the president elected.
Thank you. Item K, consideration of designation of official publication.
I move the board designate the Antigo Times as the official publication of the Unified School District of Antigo.
At this time, it's open for discussion.
I don't have anything else to add except for the appointment of the Antigo Times.
Anyone else?
I think we had the Anago Daily Journal before. I'm just curious why the switch.
Just the motion that I made was for the Antigo Times. So that's what the motion is on the floor, and that's what we have to wrap our discussion around.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on the Anago Times as the official publication?
Off memory, I thought in the past there was discussion about Anago Times, and I thought they weren't able to be an official publication. Does anybody remember that, or remember a discussion about the qualifications for who could be the official publication?
So I think that Deanna reached out to them and they informed us that they are able to be the official publication for the district.
In the past, my memory serves that they did not have the personnel to do it at the time, so that may have changed.
Okay.
But that's why it was in the past.
I think the Antigo Times is a good resource because it's a free paper. It goes out to, I don't know how many number of homes throughout the county. Some people may not get the Antigo Daily Journal because they don't subscribe to it either online or by having it delivered to their mailbox. So that was my thought of the Antigo Times. And in the past, whenever we did ask about the Antigo Times, Kristen, I think you're right because they didn't have the staff to be able to do that. And apparently now they do have the staff in order to accommodate the school using them for their official publication.
Okay, at this time, you need to pick up your voting devices. And the vote is for the Anago Times to be the publication for the Unified School District of Anago.
It can get finicky.
Would anyone like to change their vote? Okay, the voting is now closed. Okay, so the motion fails and we move on. So the next item is consideration of designation of official depositories.
I move the board adopt the following list as the official depositories for the Unified School District of Anago: Bank of Wisconsin, BMO Harris Bank, Covantage Credit Union, Associated Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, Peshtigo Bank, Mid-American Administrative and Retirement Solutions, Inc., PMA Financial Network, Inc., Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative, Wisconsin Local Governments Investment Pool.
Is there any discussion? Would you like to speak to your motion, Jean?
No, thank you.
Now, is there any discussion of Jean's motion? No? None? Hearing none? Pick up your voting devices. Nathan, are you ready? Okay. Cast your ballot, please. Would anyone like to change their vote? Voting is closed, and motion passes. Up next is the consideration of designation of a day, place, and time for regular committee meetings.
I move the board to approve the following schedule for committee meetings beginning July 1, 2026. All committee meetings will meet on the second Monday of every month, being held in the Anago High School's Media Tech Room 210-4. Times are as follows: Human Resources and Finance Committee at 4:30 p.m., Building and Grounds not to begin before 5 p.m., Curriculum, Instruction, Pupil Services, Special Education, Technology and Human Growth and Development Committees not to begin before 5:30 p.m., and the Policy Committee will meet as needed.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
That motion is just upholding the same committee schedule that we have had for several years within the district.
I just like to state, since committees are not currently appointed, I am not able to get here any earlier than 5:30 p.m., so I would have to be on that, the Curriculum, Instruction, Pupil Services, etc. committee.
Anyone else?
With the construction going on at the high school, aren't these first meetings this summer going to be moved to another location?
Yep, that's a good question. They'll be moved to the middle school, to the IMC. Okay, if nothing further, Nathan, are you ready for a vote? Okay, please mark your vote. Is that it? Is that all of them? Would anyone like to change your vote? Okay, Nathan? Okay, motion passes. Okay, up next is consideration of designation of a day, place, and time for regular board meetings.
I move the board to approve the third Monday of each month, 6:15 p.m. at the Anago High School Media Tech Room, as the day, place, and time for regular board meetings beginning July 1, 2026, with the exception of those months that the high school is closed. Then we will meet at the middle school IMC.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
Once again, like the committees, just keeping our same meeting schedule, and to clean up the note that Mike caught on the last motion for the month of July and August, whatever, and June, when the high school is closed up, so we will meet at the middle school.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm just going to note that with the high school being closed up, that is due to the successful passing of the referendum for the building needs. So just to ensure that we are all being very transparent, that is why the building will be closed.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. If nothing else, Nathan, is the voting ready? Okay. Is that everybody except Angie? Okay. All right. Would anyone like to change their ballot or their vote? Okay. Nathan, can you show us the results, please? Okay. Motion passes. Okay. Next is the approval of authorization of electronic signatures. And right now that would only apply to Abby with clerk duties. And Jill. And Jill. So are both of you accepting of that, your electronic signatures?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody need to make a motion?
I move the board to authorize the use of the board officers' facsimile and/or electronic signatures as allowed by law and not prohibited by rules and regulations of the respective agency or organization.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Would anyone else?
And to clarify, you both said that that was fine. Thank you.
I did not answer, but yes.
Okay. The voting devices are ready. As soon as Nathan gets the grid up for us. Okay, would any please cast your ballot? Okay. Would anyone like to change their vote? Okay, hearing none. Nathan, please share the results. Okay, motion passes. Okay. Item number 3, citizens and delegations. We do not have a student representative present for tonight, so we will move to item B, recognition. And at this time, we would like to extend a special note of gratitude to Madison Cheney for her incredible leadership and hard work following prom. While most students were headed home, she stayed behind to go above and beyond, personally moving a staggering number of tables and chairs to ensure the venue was cleared. We are so proud to have a student who leads by example and embodies such a selfless spirit. If Madison is present, please come forward. Madison is not present tonight. Okay, next is public comment. Just can you put it there, please? Okay, the presiding officer of each board meeting at which public comment is permitted shall administer the rules of the board for its conduct. The presiding officer shall be guided by the following rules. A public comment shall be permitted before the board takes official action on any issue of substance. Attendees must register their intention to comment in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. Comments made by the public shall be civil in content and tone, affirming the decorum established for a school board meeting by the school board. Disparaging comments, remarks about school board members, employees, students, positions, position titles, and/or district citizens shall not be permitted. Comments by the public shall be in reference to a specific agenda item. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and will be requested to preface their comments by an announcement of their name and group affiliation if and when appropriate. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes in duration. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. Participants shall address only topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. The presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. They may also request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action. The proportion of the meeting during which the comment of the public is invited shall be limited to 60 minutes unless extended by vote of the board. A reminder to board members and speakers, this is not a conversation between the board and the person speaking at the microphone. The person at the microphone will be allotted their 5 minutes to speak, and we move to the next person who has signed up to speak. And our first person up to speak is Tom Koss on donations.
Good evening, everybody. Is there a switch? It's on. I'm just too short to reach it. Yep, got it. You can hear me anyway. Okay. Good. Thank you. Well, you can hear me. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm here because starting on December 4th, a person in the community came to the School Foundation, an organization I am president of the board of that's been in place since year 2000. The job of the foundation is to funnel private donations to the school district to help with education and goals of the district in the community. These things changed a little bit on March 18th, where a special board meeting was held to take control by the board of the governance of the Aquatic Center. The second motion, which is really applicable to us, the main motion of the meeting was to approve the funding. This is for the Clara R. McKenna Aquatic Center. The foundation has money in hand, and we have more coming in. So we just want to get you the background. The main motion was to approve the funding at the direction of legal counsel. Only Fund 80 will be used for the operations and maintenance of the Aquatic Center, and all other funds be utilized in a manner consistent with the law. It directs administration to work with legal counsel to develop a plan of action for the continued operation and maintenance of the Aquatic Center. So that was March 18th. A task force was formed at the March 23rd meeting, and I was one of the members, and we met on April 13th and on April 21st. And on our meeting on the 21st, we were given a list of something called the Aquatic Center Financial Executive Summary, and it pointed out that there are critical deferred maintenance needs: the slide, front door, HVAC controls, bathroom partitions, tile repair, etc., totaling a cost of $127,000. That's really what our donor was trying to provide money to take care of from the beginning, and we now have $123,000 plus sitting in the separate account at the foundation aimed to make those repairs. So we just wanted to let you know that's there. We have been working to try to come up with a budget that will work for the Aquatic Center. We've seen 3 different sets of numbers from the district, but we're confident that something can be worked out. We did have the YMCA personnel and Sarah Rep go through the budget we were given and really get vendor quotes, get numbers that are real, and we've come up with a budget we think will work. At the April 20th board meeting, I did hand out a statement of intent from the foundation to the board explaining how we will donate money to cover annual deficit. These basic repairs were first on our list to keep the things safe, and then we would put together additional funds. It's looking like we will have $2 million altogether. More than $1 million should sit at the foundation and be there for future needs. But today, we have that 123. We have a commitment from 2 other families for another 150,000, and we haven't. These people approached me. I did not approach anyone, so it's just coming from the community. I am getting, I don't know why they're picking on me, but I am getting contacts from the news reporters wondering, okay, what's going on? We know you guys are working on it, but I've just said there's no final decisions on anything, but at least we know they're interested and the community seems to be interested. So I think that's really what I want to tell you, is that we have the money sitting in the account to cover those repairs, which seem a matter of safety, and we have more money on its way. And I do have copies for everyone of the same thing I gave some of you members were here on the 20th of April, but if anyone wasn't and wants to see our commitment, I'd be happy to hand it to you. Can I give that? That's it, then I'm done if I just give that to anybody.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koss. Up next, we have Jennifer Bain wanting to speak on financial reports.
Welcome to the new board members. Thank you for being here. I have been listening to all the meetings since the pool issues have been brought forward, and I'm obviously, the pool is what got me concerned to start watching the meetings and its status, but since then I've had some other concerns as well. When I sit in the audience and hear all this talk about fining teachers who choose to cut their contract early, I am alarmed. I hear how financially it really puts a district in a pickle because it's hard to replace a staff member in the middle of the year, and I have no doubt that that is a fact. But I hear the board bickering over raising the fine to $7,500, and I hear Kristen state that there are, when there are extenuating circumstances, that fee can be waived. So what I interpret that is as a punishment for feeling that when you do not feel valued, loved, or supported, and you feel forced to leave your post in the middle of the year, that your work environment is so toxic that you feel it's the only option, because no teachers want to leave in the middle of a year. Because if it was for another reason like illness, it would be dismissed. This makes our teachers feel like they are in even more of a predicament if they stay here. Anyone who is already on the fence about next school year is going to take this as a sign that they need to get out now. But there's a huge piece of this puzzle that no one's talking about. I think the community needs to be aware, and if you you as the board are not aware, or are already aware, that you need to be reminded of it. All of my information has come directly from sources or from the DPI website. The information I received from the DPI website is from last school year, and I don't doubt that these numbers are higher than what I'm actually reporting here. For each student who attends the Unified School District of Antigo, you receive $10,102 for a regular ed child and $14,454 for a child that has special needs or an IEP. But on the flip side of that, for each child that you have in your district boundaries who's getting an education elsewhere, you are losing that same amount of money. So let's talk about those numbers. First, there are the private school students. You have 215 attending All Saints, 192 attending Peace Lutheran, and 47 attending Shepherd's Watch in Mattoon. That is 454 kids attending a private school. Then you have what I like to call straight up homeschooling. That's what I do for my oldest child. This is a child who's registered with the DPI as a privately educated student. They're not associated with virtual schools. Last year's data puts the number for our district at 195 students. We are in the top 10% of the state for the number of homeschooled students. Then there are virtual schools. Now, this is where it gets a little more confusing because schools like the RVA are a consortium district. You do get some money for these students, but then you have to pay some money out. I don't know exactly, what that means or like where it's at. So I'm not going to include the RVA kids in my final numbers, but just know that there are, according to last year's reportings, 138 students attending the RVA, which is still some money that you are losing. Antigo has the #1 spot for the number of students in the RVA, even over Medford, which is where it's located from. That is eye-opening. There are other private online schools such as AOE, the Academy of Excellence out of Milwaukee. The AOE has 43 of your students this year. Then there are open enrolled kids. Kids who live here in this district, but their parents have chosen for them to be schooled at another public school. To me, this is your biggest loss on a personal level. These kids are still getting a public school education, but not here. The good news is that you have attracted 43 students who have open enrolled here from other districts. The bad news is you've lost 226 students. 226 kids are publicly schooled and going to other districts. So let's add up what I have. This is not all-inclusive. I probably missed a few online schools or other things, but we are at 118 students. Let's pretend every one of them is a regular ed kid, which we know they're not. At least some of them have IEPs. 918, not including RVA kids, times 10,102 is 9,273,636. $9.2 million that are being hemorrhaged to other districts, or at least not into yours. I see your vision statement, your priorities and order list, cultivating talent and investing in our people as the last priority. This needs to be the first priority. Until you start recruiting good teachers and filling the positions you have open, you are going to continue to lose students, which means a loss in funding, a lot of loss in funding. And it's not fair to expect the few teachers left to carry the weight of all the ones that have left. Your first priority was student achievement and success. I love that, but how can you have student achievement and success without good teachers and a teacher in every hole that's been created? You can't.
Thank you, Ms. Bain. Okay, up next we have the consent agenda. I'll be looking for a motion for the approval of the consent agenda items.
I move the board approve the agenda minutes from the April 20th, 2026 Board of Education meeting, May CPT committee meeting minutes, district retirement and resignations report, report of district new hires, financial reports for April and May 2026, consideration of current bills, checks number 9692 to 9749 in the amount of $540,991.99. ACH's numbers 252-601, 253 through 252-601376. in the amount of $750,708.11, and wire transfers in the amount of $21,820.39 for a total of $1,313,520.49.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
Just as always, I'm sad to see such great teachers go, and I appreciate the time that they spent here.
Any further questions or comments?
I'm curious if it can be shared out or if there's knowledge of those that have resigned, if any are relocating out of Antigo and or leaving education.
Yes, so let me count, and hopefully I don't miss anyone. So there's There are 5 that are moving. They're relocating out of Antigo. There are 2 of the staff members who are leaving education. And 3 or 4 who have accepted positions in a different district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We typically have the question in June or July as to where we are with staffing, because there are 8 new hires on the new hire list. What is the status, do you know, on the staffing? How many more teachers do we need or other positions?
I know we have 3 offers that are out, and we have a few more interviews scheduled for this week yet. So yeah, we're hoping that those 3 that are out will be yeses, they'll be accepted as well. And then the majority will be just filling, we have a special ed position at the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. And then I think the majority of the remaining positions are elementary classroom positions.
Thank you.
I would also like to comment on the new hires and years of experience. 10 years of experience, 8 years of experience, 10 years of experience, 5 years of experience. So that's exceptional that we are also getting applicants and hiring staff who have several years of experience.
Yes, I agree. And some are coming from out of state as well. So they're new to Wisconsin.
I noticed that as well. You missed 1 7-year just.
I thought so. Thank you.
But also the number of applicants for some of those positions, as many as 35 applicants, 21 applicants. So.
Agreed.
Well, I have to say that I'm super excited that there's a Spanish teacher on this list.
As are we.
Me too.
Further conversation? Questions? Okay, hearing none. Your voting devices are now open.
Stop looking at me.
You must have that one that doesn't work right.
You're good now. It's on there.
Yeah, it went. Would anyone like to change their vote? She's gone, okay. Would anyone like to change their vote? Okay, hearing none. Nathan? Okay, the motion passes.
Is it possible to dim the lights here a little bit so I can see the screen? you against that? There's a glare on it from the lights.
Is it easier if we switch? Maybe closer to the screen. I don't know if it's lighting.
And then you'll be over here.
That's okay.
Go on.
It's up to you.
I'll stay here, but thank you. Maybe I'll try a different spot next time. Maybe, yeah. It looks darker.
Okay. Item number 5, administration reports. Letter A, Director of Business Services, Mrs. Fossbender is present if anyone has questions about her report. Hearing none, we'll move on to item B, Director of Buildings and Grounds. Mr. Leiterman is present if anyone has questions.
I do have a question. What is the current status of the maintenance issues at the Aquatic Center?
I can speak to that. So when we had our attorney involved and then the attorney representing the foundation, it's kind of been left in the hands of the two attorneys to figure things out. So we haven't been able to do anything other than the YMCA was overseeing the repairs for the door to the Aquatic Center. And other than that, we're kind of in limbo.
So that door was repaired? Is that what you're saying?
I do not have that. I know that that was the next item to be worked on, and they had quotes, and they were supposed to be overseeing that repair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, up next we have Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and Ms. Stutzream will get us started with our data monitoring reports from our wonderful building principals.
Good evening. So it's an exciting night, not only for the Director of Curriculum role, but for all of our principals as well, because we get to show the community and our school board and our new school board members how we conduct kind of our spring data review. You'll hear from some buildings are still finishing up, but we have the data in front of you, as well as it'll be on the screen, and it's on the topic summary sheet as well. Just as an overview to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page, as we have some new people and maybe some people tuning in for the first time from the community, this is the very first year that we have completed Ames Web testing for the whole district for K through 12th grade. If you were here last year, you would remember we did part Ames Web, part Fastbridge. We changed to all Ames Web as the Act 20 literacy law came into effect, and so all of our students will take the Ames Web benchmark screeners in literacy and mathematics. So what that means is we take a benchmark screener in fall. We look at that data as a team, as teachers, as admin, as myself, my reading specialist. We make our groups, meaning is this student in advance? Is this student in enrichment? Is this student in need of an intervention? We really drill down to every student. And then we benchmark them again in winter, usually in January, December and January, to see where we have made progress through the first part of the school year. We then realign our decisions and our instructional decisions based on that data, and then we move into spring. So we just completed our spring Ames Web data. The high school will talk about they're still finishing up some of their students, so their data is a little bit incomplete right now because this school board meeting came quicker than we could finish that data, but we'll get that data to you. But I want to remind people that Act 20 law there's some requirements around it based on the testing cycle. So you'll hear Mr. Fear and Mr. Waniger speak about this. We have certain dates based on the start of the school year and the end of the school year that we need to complete that testing for grades 4 K through 3rd grade to make sure we're in compliance with Act 20. So when they're talking about their data, they actually did some of their data in March because it has to be 45 days from the last day of our school year on the calendar. So that pushed them back to March, which we know we had 2 months still to do learning and to do instruction. So I'll let them speak on what they did in May to help you guys in the community and also our educators really know where our students ended at the end of the school year now in May of 2026. So they're going to be discussing with you the data from their schools for the spring. They'll connect it to their winter data to show growth. And then they have plans and an action plan of maybe where we had shortcomings of things we could have done better and where we did things that were great and where we are going to progress into the next school year. Are there any questions around that Ames web data before I let the principals do their job?
Before everyone gets started, you may want to go through your packets and turn to the section that says spring data.
So we'll start with the high school. So you're going to want to flip from fall to winter to spring at the end. And I'll invite Ms. Borneman and Mr. Morank up to speak through their data. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yep.
So, with this data, then what do we do once we have it? Now that we have it, like, what's the roadmap of what do we do with it?
Yeah, so in fall, when we have the first screener, every student takes it, we look at that data, and then we make our intervention groups, our title groups, or our enrichment groups. We call them WIN groups as well, what I need. So every student is really getting what they need. We drill down to every student based on what maybe deficit they're having. So if I'm a student in first grade, third grade, and I'm still struggling with decoding words, then my intervention will be decoding words. Because I'm getting core in the classroom, I'm getting what everyone gets in first grade, but I need a little bit more because I'm still struggling with some of my decoding skills. So I would be in an intervention for decoding. If I was a student in first grade and my decoding looks great, my phonemic awareness, which means how I hear sounds and how I pronounce words, my encoding, how I write, is really good, then maybe my WIN group is an enrichment group where my teacher is taking me to another level with writing and reading, past what maybe my peers might be doing. So we do that like 3 times a year with our data, and we drill down for every student. We have really extensive meetings, a lot of spreadsheets, drilling down to what exactly every student needs. So now in spring, as we have that spring data, we look back and see what trends do we see in instructional practice that we did that worked really well, that we want to continue into next year. And then we also see things of like, okay, we still have some students who are lacking. They are going to start right there in fall. We're not going to waste any time with them. We already know where their data end. We know a little summer slide here and there, but we can start day one with our students in an intervention group if needed to get the road running into their next school year. So we really use this data a lot. The testing is not that much. I know some people think, oh, we test our kids so much. It's in the middle school, it's like a 20-minute comprehension test. They do a little vocab test. We have some fluency, so it doesn't take a super long time to do, so our students aren't sitting there for a long time. But it is really useful data for us because I always talk to the principals, we don't hope and wish our kids pass. We have data to prove if they are passing. If they are not, what do we need to do about it? So we don't get to the end of the year and hope we do well, right? You don't walk into a football game and like wish you made it to the Super Bowl. You have practiced, you have plays, you have adjusted those plays, you had make switches, you had changed things. That's what we do in education all the way to the end, which is currently right now. We're going to have some areas of growth that they're going to talk about that we need to do better on. We have that every year. We close those gaps moving into next year, and we have some celebrations as well. Welcome, Ms. Schreiber. Right in time for the data. But we use this data on a daily basis, and our teachers do as well. They're very cognizant of where every student is in their class, how they need to adjust to make sure they're hitting grade level standards and above.
So then, the assistance that the students get then to get them to the next point, is that on the current teachers to work with them on that, or do instructional coaches get involved? Like, how does that
Yes.
support the teachers in the classroom?
So my answer is both and all.
Okay.
So yes, so when we look at our data, we look at it from the school lens, right? The principals will look at that school lens. Where are we on a school lens? We break it down by grade level, we break it down by classroom, and then we break it down even farther to that individual student. So we really make sure that all of our students are, like I said, getting what they need. It is not fully on the classroom teacher, but we do make adjustments. So when you hear them talk, they might say universal instruction. Universal is what every student should have in their grade level. Universal is all students get core at their grade level, high standard work. Some of our students get core and more. They might get core and an intervention because they're still working on some skill deficit. But sometimes our title teachers take those students and work individually, maybe in a group of 3. We have our classroom teachers who may take a small group during WIN time. WIN time is during the day where it's a set aside time where every student moves and goes to what they need. The WIN time at the high school is the last hour of the day. So we really make sure that every student is getting exactly what they need, whether it's an intervention or an enrichment if they're already above grade level. But it's not solely on the classroom teacher, but it is on the classroom teacher to make adjustments to what they're doing in that universal. Because if I don't have 80% of my students passing as a classroom teacher, that's tier 1. Like when I instruct as a teacher, I should have at least 80% passing the very first time I teach it. If I'm using strong instructional practices, if I have that 20%, I need more for, that's where that core and more comes from. But if I'm instructing and I only have 15% of my kids passing, I, as the classroom teacher, need to change something in my instruction, and that's where instructional coaches come in as well. They'll come into our classroom, they'll provide feedback, they might give suggestions around instructional activities and things that our teachers can tweak. Our teachers have been wonderful about that. We're all about feedback and changing things that we need to do, but we work collaboratively as a team with title teachers. Our instructional aides take groups. They've been trained in a lot of our resources that we use. The classroom teachers will share. If Mr. Pyatt and I taught together, I might take some of his students who match some of my students' data, and he might take some of mine, and we teach during that time to what those kids need. But I want to make sure everyone's aware that all kids get their core. They get that grade level standard. That's an expectation, because if we're not teaching to the grade level, we will consistently keep that gap. They will always be behind. Even if I'm a 8th grader reading like a 2nd grader, I still need to be exposed to 8th grade content. I might not be able to decode it all myself because I'm still struggling. That's where my intervention comes in. But if I'm never exposed to 8th grade work, come 9th grade, I'm still sitting at 2nd grade. Come 10th grade, I'm still sitting at 2nd grade. I have to be exposed to grade level content and also get the intervention if I am deficit in some of those skills. Okay?
Can I ask another question?
Yep.
So are we projected to have enough staff to support Amy and her team? Are we on track for hiring people to give them adequate support for that?
We're fully staffed instructional coaching. We could always add more. I shouldn't say. I would love more. So if they're out there, and we had the financial aspect to do it, instructional coaching is a really powerful way to move the needle on data and support our teachers. So we're fully staffed there right now. We have openings, but that's just in case we get a really good qualified person and Ms. Fossbender finds financial support somewhere. But we have all of our title teachers, so all that kind of support. Our reading specialist does a lot of work in that as well. Our high school has been wonderful. We have teachers who maybe teach one content area, like a Mr. Churchill, wonderful, amazing teacher. He doesn't, during WIN, he does a reading group. He teaches decoding, and he does a fabulous job. So even though I'm teaching, in the CTE realm, I also take, during WIN time, when I split students and we try to make sure we're hitting everyone's gap, he's grabbing kids and doing an intervention and had really great data. By the way, on his intervention, we were super excited when we looked through that. So shout out to Mr. Churchill. Okay? So definitely a team effort. No one can do education alone. If somebody thinks they can teach alone and that's it, your kids always go to the next grade level. You're always connected with people. And that's when I think when you see this data and some of the work that's been done to move it, it's because of the teamwork from admin all the way to every person in that building. Okay, and if you have questions at the end, I definitely can answer that. The principals can answer that as well. So we're going to move to the high school principals. And admin.
Hi. Okay, so kind of like Ms. Sutstream talked about, the classroom teachers take on a lot of the bulk of that, but in high school, all of your teachers are specific to a content area, right? So it's not solely up to our ELA team or our math team to be able to move everybody. We use everybody in the district, or everybody in the building. And this is the first time that we've had a true intervention system set up at the high school where everybody was involved and everybody was in something. So if you're a 9th and 10th grader and you're at grade level or above, you're doing study skills, and we pushed out a curriculum for that. If you are an 11th grader and you're at grade level or above, you were doing ACT prep, which our 11th graders made a lot of progress in their ACT, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And if you're a 12th grader, you're working on your senior portfolio, which we got some really great feedback this year, and we gave them time within their day to work on their senior portfolio. So we're hoping to complete that kind of a system again next year, so there's options for everybody, and maybe improve our enrichment options depending on what staff we have available for interventions or whatnot. So our staff went through some pretty intense training at the beginning of the school year to be able to run different interventions. For example, like Mr. Churchill, who is typically in autos, right? And now he's doing an intervention, and he was game for it. There were several other people who were doing something out of their content area, but they were really game for it. They made a lot of progress with kids. So I know that Ms. Studstream had shared with you that we moved 74 students out of interventions this year. So when we looked at the data that you're going to see on the screen, we dug a little deeper because it wasn't making sense. So I'm going to start talking about our data. So our Ames Web for ELA is made up of several tests. So we have the reading comprehension test up there. And when we looked at that score, we thought, That doesn't really match what we saw in winter. That doesn't match what we're seeing in progress monitoring. So we went to vocabulary. It looks a little bit better. Also not matching what we saw in progress monitoring. Also not matching what we saw in winter. And so then we went to their individual scores for the students, and we noticed that not all of our students completed all of their testing, and some of our students had really high scores in all areas except for reading comprehension. And so we talked to a couple of students, and some of the answers, not all, but some of the answers were, that part was really hard. Yeah, it was really hard because we're at the end of the year, and you guys have been doing a really good job. So when you look at the reading composite that you see in front of you, we pulled out the students who did not have scores that made sense. So like if you had 2 or 3 really high scores and then one that was at the bottom, we pulled them out so that we could retest them. So when Ms. Dutstream talks about how our data is in progress, I wanted to be able to show you accurately what our students were doing instead of what we had, because it didn't make sense. It would be different if we could say, oh, yep, this student scored really average for all 3 scores. That's a score that makes sense. But when you have somebody who's taken 2 or 3 tests and scored in the highest, and then they have one test that is very close to the bottom, that score doesn't make sense. We also had 33 students who didn't complete all of their tests due to sports, AP testing, sickness, finals, other competitions, so they are still testing. So that's kind of what that looks like. So when we look at our scores with the students who have completed all of their testing, that's what our progress looks like. I'm hoping to come back in June with everything for you, and I apologize that it wasn't accurate this time. I could have shared the data that we have, but I just didn't feel like it was an accurate portrayal of our students and all of the hard work they've put in, especially when we look at our interventions, and we've moved so many of them out, and we have that progress monitoring data to show that, right? Like that's a scheduled test that's done each Thursday or Friday of the week to be able to say this student has made so much progress. So we really tried to make sure our data made sense before we brought it completely to you. Yeah.
If you were here in the winter, we talked about the silent fluency test. It's one of the outliers in the test in the winter, in the fall, and the spring. It's a time test, and many students who show proficiency in the comprehension and the vocabulary didn't do well. So if I scored a 74, which is in the blue, which is extremely high, and then a 57, which is in the green, which is extremely high as well, but then I scored a 5, it'll drop me all the way to below proficiency, excuse me. And in the winter, we had the time to pull those kids out and retest them, or give them the ORF, which is a oral reading test, and they scored where they should have, extremely high. And so that's why you see some of our scores have dipped as well. We just hadn't had a time to do that and retest those students, and we'll touch base on that a little bit more later on here in the presentation.
So is there any questions around that before they go on? Because I want to make sure that that's clear.
And we want to be really transparent with you. We're not trying to hide anything.
No, you're essentially wanting to ensure that each and every student has accurate data, so that way you can assess where they're at academically and put them in the right groups of students to ensure that we are continuing to promote academic achievement and progress. So that makes sense, and I, as one board member, appreciate that. Thank you.
Also, when mom and dad get those reports, I want them to see what their student can actually do, right? Because they do get individual reports for their students, and I don't want them to see something that's not accurate. Okay, so if we scroll down to our math, those are the numbers that we're going to have. So our math went down a little bit in 9th grade. It went up a little bit in 10th grade. Yes, it's still a negative number, but we were at -8. Our 11th graders went up. They are 1% up. And our total, we dipped 5% as a building. Our focus was definitely on ELA this year, but that's where our math was. We did definitely have math interventions happening across the building for the first time.
I'm only going to jump in one more time because I want to make sure you see those percentages below are around that 80%, almost 80% passing. So just because we went down 6%, we're still at 25%, which is the highest that our high school has ever been with passing. So I just want to make sure that's clear. They're very hard on themselves because they're very good at their jobs. So I just want to make sure when you're looking at 22% not passing, that's a lot of kids passing, and that's a doable percent of
So if we scroll down a little bit, it shows you for literacy in the top, the three scores. Oh, right there. Sorry. It shows you the 3 times that they've tested what students scored below grade level. And so we are 14.5% above that right now, because at the beginning of the year, 46.5% of our students scored below grade level, and now we're at 32% of our students scoring below grade level. So that really shows the hard work that was put into our ELA this year. Our staff worked really hard, and I want to make sure that's clear. They worked really hard to move everybody. As for math, we see it moving in a little bit in the opposite direction. 7.6% of our students scored below grade level at the beginning of the year, and now 23% of our students scored below grade level. So we're at 15.4%. We'll talk about some reasons why we think that may have happened and things that we want to look at for next year at the end. We're going to shift to some of our ACT data, and I'm not sure if you've heard this, what's happening right now in the state of Wisconsin. I don't know if it's bigger than the state of Wisconsin, but I do have the email from ACT, just to be really transparent. I have a copy for all of you. So last Wednesday, so I had a ton of ACT data in here, and I can tell you that we went up or stayed the same. We went up in, I think, 5 categories, stayed the same in 1, and went down in 1. However, last Wednesday, after looking at all of our data and reviewing it, we got an email from ACT stating that due to their new scoring that they rolled out this year, they have realized that there was an issue with some of the students who took our tests and their scores. So as part of their continuous evaluation of scores, they've discovered the need to reissue scores for students who took the test online this spring during the school testing day. This need relates to an update to the process to ensure all tests are scored fairly and accurately, regardless of when and how a student was tested. They'll be communicating with us again when the scores are uploaded. They said June 2nd has a date, and I think it's in that letter from them. So I'm hoping that that's true. We don't know which students that they are going to re-score. We don't know how much that will affect our score. They do say in here that our scores will not go down. They will stay the same or go up. So that's where it's at. That was a pretty big hit for our 11th graders who've been in ACT prep all year, right? And now I've got this score, and some of them, they are already they've already signed up to retake it. Now they're paying out of pocket for it. So it was hard for our kids to take that. We did send this out on Thursday. We got this, I saw it after school on Wednesday. I don't remember what time the email came in. I'm sure it says it on there. But we sent it out on Thursdays to families and to students, and unfortunately, I just don't have any more information at this time. But I'm hoping that ACT sticks to the June 2nd date. Yes, ma'am.
So when my son's score goes way up, am I going to get it in the mail too? Or does he have to look at
Well, I don't know
it's
that.
slightly, but I'm hoping that's right.
We are going to send it out whenever we find out how they're doing the scores and if they're mailing them out again or not. This is all the communication that we have from them. So, yeah, it's not great. I'm not going to, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And it's not just our kids. It's a lot of districts within the state. So one of the things that we can tell you about is that the ACTs changed the way that they are scoring the tests this year. So depth of knowledge questions is something we talk a lot about in education, and how deep a question is asking a student's critical thinking skills. The ACT has removed all level 1 and level 2 questions, and now they're moving on to only 3 and 4 questions. So an example of a DOK level 1 question is something like, what is the main idea of the passage? And so questions like that have been removed from the ACT. An example of a DOK 3 question is, how does an author's use of evidence throughout the passage strengthen the overall argument? Use specific examples from the text to support your answer. So they went from what is the main idea of the passage to the second question that I read. And we were not aware of that change. I don't think anybody had that much notice about those changes. So that's something that we're going to change our ACT prep for next year, because DOK 3 and 4 questions are much harder than DOK 1 and 2 questions. The other thing that ACT changed this year was how they scored the test. In the past, and I don't know if this calculation is exact, I'm working with the information that I have, they scored it on English, math, reading, and science equally, so 25%-ish each. And now they are no longer scoring science, which is one of the categories that we score the highest in. And I wonder if the rescoring, everything now is like 33.3%. I'm wondering if that has something to do with the recalculating of the scores. I don't know that, but they are only scoring English, math, and reading now. So Any questions about ACT? Okay. So our teachers this year had their SLO as a building, and our goal was to, by the spring benchmark in May, have at least 65% of our students performing at or above benchmark in reading and math as measured by AIMSweb. The building-wide goal was to show that 100% of our students show growth from their pre-ACT to their ACT scores, and that at least 50% of students meet or exceed the ACT collegeness readiness benchmarks in 2 tested areas. We had all 3 listed. So some of the data that I was able to pull before everything kind of got jumbled was that 19% of our students met or exceeded the ACT college readiness benchmarks in 3 or more tested areas, but that number is going to change. So it's in here, and I'm trying not to be confusing. I apologize, maybe I should have taken it out. That number will probably change and be different in June. Our literacy performance improved in all areas across benchmarks, with the percentage of students scoring below grade level decreasing from 46.5 in the fall to 32% in the spring. So that's what our staff had to look at and be proud of. The Antigo High School staff remained committed to continuous improvement and data-driven instruction throughout the school year. The benchmark data showed positive gains in reading achievement, while the ACT results remained stable over the slight improvements in the ELA and reading performance. So that was using the data that we had last week. I'm assuming it will be even better. I'm hoping that it will be even better and that they stick to that, it won't go down. So some of the things that we have talked about, the contributing factors for falling short, is that this is our first year using AIMSwebs and truly rolling out interventions, and we need to strengthen our systems and make sure all of our teachers feel really strong in what they're doing. We need better use of DOK 3 and 4 questions in the classrooms in all content areas. We need strategies for all content areas to use when students are reading text and critically thinking about it. This includes reading passages within resources instead of standalone novels or passages to make sure that the standards are being taught. And then student attendance and motivation. Some of the things that we hear, especially when it comes to AIMSweb's testing, is it's the end of the year. That was hard. So we have ways to motivate them through the rest of the year, but the end of the year gets a little tricky because it's not till fall then, right? So what can we do? We just need to brainstorm a little bit about that. What kind of an incentive might be tied to that? We also started talking about, can we put up an ACT achievement board? And we also, as a GNC conference, have been talking about an ACT banner to the school with the highest overall average or something like that rolling out next year. So we have all of these competitions or boards or celebrations for sports, and what can we do to maybe do for some of our test scores? Yeah, sorry.
Just, with the DOK 3 and 4, we've done a lot of that work with Solution Tree, and we've dug into it, but we really haven't dug into it. So we've talked about it, we look at things, but we want to be more intentional when we look at those DOK 3 and 4s. And so I just want, we meet weekly, once a week, every week, and sometimes 2 times a week to talk about those things. So we just want to be more intentional with those levels as well. Mrs. Borneman talked about student attendance. I also want to talk just about staff attendance. When you look at, especially at the high school, in May, we have spring sports, and it is a daunting task for our students in spring sports. And sometimes you're talking up towards close to 100 and some students out of the building. And a lot of times they're out of the building during that WIN intervention time because it's at the end of the day. And when you look at like a sport like golf, they're out at 11 o'clock and gone 9:15 today. And sometimes they're out Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And the coaches and our teachers have been great with trying to mix things up so kids don't miss as much school. But the reality is golf, softball, baseball, track, soccer, I mean, those students are leaving on a consistent basis in spring, starting in the middle of April all the way to the end of the school year. So they're not only missing instructional time, they're missing our interventions and other things. So I don't want to make that as an excuse, but it's the reality of what our students see on a daily basis. We're also tasked, I know Mrs. Stutstring talked about testing, and again, it's not an excuse, but our students also took the SEL screener, our teachers took the SEL screener, we're AP testing in May. We're preparing for, our civics exam, we're preparing for finals. Students are trying to get credits. there's just a lot going on. We have a lot of events, concerts happening, so there's a lot of shifting in May and April, and it puts a lot of pressure not only on our staff but also our students. So again, it's not an excuse, it's just a reality. Our teachers have been great with trying to allow us to pull kids out of their classroom when needed, but like we stated earlier, one of our goals back in fall and the middle of winter was to test 100% of our students, because that gives our best data. Well, that's really hard when all those things are happening, and we started May, I think it was 1st or 2nd, and we're presenting to you here in a few short weeks. So to try to get every student tested, it's been difficult, and that's why we talked about we just didn't have 100% of our data. So just a couple other things that have added to, again, our students are faced with a lot of things in May.
So some of the proposed solutions to the contributing factors, increase small group instruction and the ability to support teachers and what that looks like and how to do that, because that can be a hard thing to do in a classroom. Analyzing the DOK level of questions and increasing the amount of 3 and 4s. Additional training for staff on how to use their Ames Web data to inform instruction weekly in their PLC meetings. Additional training for all staff on disciplinary literacy and how to strengthen students' critical thinking skills while they engage in text for each content area. And then some sort of incentive or motivational system or multiple ways to incentivize or motivate students to show what they know.
And then I just want to add just our continued work with, again, Solution Tree, our Language Live, our Trans Math, those interventions. We just want to consistently use those. I think at the high school we've often changed things and nothing's consistent. And if we see some consistency, our students are going to perform better as well. And they've talked about that, like, well, this is just something new. It's going to be different next year. And that's not going to happen. We're going to continuously improve. Students know what's expected of them, and they kind of know this is the way we're going to operate, and this is what we got to do to make sure we're scoring to the best of our ability.
Any questions?
Congratulations on your scores and going up with the reading. It's huge and it's well deserved, and I don't want that to be overlooked. Are we happy with our results overall? No, because we as adults know we want to be at 100% at or above grade level, right? But that is not to minimize the efforts that come from the top all the way to every adult in the building, supporting every single student and showing that growth. So congratulations to the high school on your outcomes. You guys deserve that. We're going to continue to work at it and improve those scores even more, but that should also not be overlooked for the work that was done, because we're only going to build on that momentum.
All right, so we have our middle school data, and you have everything in front of you. We're not going to go word for word with everything. A lot of the same similar things that Trina and Matt already talked about, from the test taking, Solution Tree. We're continue with that work as well. We've had a lot of great success with that work, and teachers buying into it. A couple things we want to point out: our reading comprehension. We're very pleased with all of our staff, including our paraprofessionals, everybody who works with all of our students every day. We always know we can get better. We have made some really huge gains in many of our areas, as you can see, 5th grade comprehension, and all of our green that we have on the right, along with that. And then when we hit our vocabulary, that is our biggest area of struggle. So that is where, again, like with the high school, disciplinary literacy, how are we bringing everything together? Not just our language arts teachers, this needs to be spread out, and we have been working on it, but we really need to be very intentional around that. There are many ELA behaviors, and the ELA teachers cannot do that by themselves. I want you to keep in mind that with our 5th grade, we use different math and ELA curriculum. We use in 5th grade reading, we are using Into Reading, which is the same as elementary, so it's a nice transition for when our 4th graders come to 5th grade. And then also with math, we use I Am Math, which has been a really great curriculum resource this year, and Teal will speak more to that as well. We've seen a ton of progress along with that resource, just really guiding, and we're excited about the future. And then when we get into 6th grade, and all the way through 12th grade, we're using our CPM resource for math. And then for 6th through 12th grade, we are using My Perspectives when it comes to our ELA. So a little bit of a transition. But that's kind of neat to have us all in the same building because we're able to, work with each other and have that collaboration just right there on our hands. Whenever we have PD days, we do really try to make sure that we ensure vertical alignment discussions through our content along with our grade level, but that's been very helpful as well. So with our vocabulary, definitely that is an area of just school-wide. We just need to really strengthen that, even into our math vocabulary. Whatever vocabulary it is in the content, there are a ton of strategies you can use to build on vocabulary, writing, comprehension. There's only so much time in the day, and you really need to just kind of take your time and dig into the ones that you feel comfortable with, because not every teacher feels the same way with teaching the same strategies. Along with that, Jolene Keppel is an amazing instructional coach. She gives us a ton of support. She was only a 0.5 coach this year and 0.5 special education. So if you think about that, her dedication, the time, the things that we were able to see is just incredible with a 0.5. And that means she's doing a lot outside of the school day as well as all of our teachers. But along a strength with what Teal will talk about, Jolene also led our trans math with our special education students, and we saw really big gains with that. So we will continue to do that. Next year, Jolene will be our full-time instructional coach, and then we'll be up to 4 special education case managers. Still looking for 1 more if we happen to get that, but if we don't, we are ready to adjust and figure out what we need to do. So next year, we are adding Language Live, not just for our students with IEPs, but for all of our students that would need like a tier 3. It could be title. Even if they're not in title or not with an IEP, we're going to have teachers trained. The high school did that this year, so we're going to be adding that next year. And then we'll also do that with trans math as well. Right now, this year, trans math was only used with our students with IEPs. We did not use it. We used it for a couple students in like a tier 3, but just for a few students. So we're going to be opening that up next year too. Then the last thing that I want to kind of talk about before we head into math is we definitely need to have more clarity for our families around standards, around our expectations, how they can help, how we can collaborate and be a community. I think, maybe ever since COVID, everybody kind of went into their own little areas, but our families are really, they want to be a part of it, and I know for a fact that's something that we all can do better, is how do we provide our families clarity? How do we provide our students clarity around expectations, standards, and just really how do we kind of bring that all back together and connect about it, instead of trying to live in a little silo, because that does not work in school and it does not work in our community. So again, that's just a lot that we want to focus in on. We did add a lot of motivation for our students. Really all our students want is extra recess. So that is pretty easy for Teal and I to take care of that extra recess. So we had a lot of students just buy into that. We said, do you want to dunk us in the dunk tank or do you want extra recess? Well, extra recess 1, leaps and bounds. So you don't have to do a whole lot for these kids. And some of those things don't motivate every one of our children, we know that. But when you try to communicate the effort and the motivation, it does help some. Again, you can't get everything. All right, Teal, take it away.
Yeah, and I'll talk on that motivation piece and why that part is so important and why we take a lot of pride in that at the middle school is because we have to have students do their absolute best on these tests because we need to know where they're at. If we're going to make smart decisions on what interventions that they need to be in, what classes they need to be in, how we need to adjust that curriculum, we have to know where the student's actually at. And so we need everyone to give their best effort. And I think the motivation systems that we have set in place has done a really good job at helping us do that with our students. So I'll talk a little bit about our math scores. We are incredibly proud of the teachers and the students from across the board, ELA and in math, and we really found a niche here and made things work in math and got awesome results. A couple of things that I'll talk about that I do believe were big contributing factors to these math results. One, she talked a little bit about the trans math program. This year, that's like a tier 3 program. that we can use as an intervention in math. It really was a pilot year for us. We didn't use it many with tier 3 students outside of the special education realm, but in combination of Jolene Keppel and the TransMath program, she was able to do wonders and really got a good understanding of that program, which is going to be essential as she starts to lay that out with the other teachers that will dive into that in the years to come here. But the program was really good for our students. We saw good results around that, and that helped to push some of those students over that line of proficiency. I think another big contributing factor was just being consistent. Like, these just didn't pop up this year and just bam. If you looked at the results over the last 3 or 4 years, our staff has been working with Solution Tree and getting very consistent around our pacing guides and standards, and then even more specifically down to the learning target of the skill that goes along with those. Putting in the time to look at which skills are the students really going to need for the future that are non-negotiables. We have to go until we have proficiency on this. Which ones are highly tested, and which ones are going to have an impact on some of those highly tested or really important skills for their future, and just focusing on when in the year we're laying those out and when we're focusing on those. And then in combination, the last thing is with our assessments, we're not just assessing to assess. We meet in our PLCs, we look at the data, we look at each student individually. Sometimes it's really nice where students 2 or 3 are messing up on the same skill or the same part of a skill, and we're able to pull those into a small group and make better use of our time. Sometimes an individual needs a little bit more help. And then sometimes our results show that we need to just bring in a completely different strategy. What's an outside of the box or a different way to look at this, that we need to redo this lesson tomorrow so that the larger group can get this and go on. And Jolene Keppel, the instructional coach, has done a great job bringing in different strategies. Our teachers, you can really see the difference in terms of them bringing in new strategies or additional strategies, ones that they haven't tried before, being willing to try those with all of our students. And that collaboration has made a very big difference as well. So those are kind of 3 of the biggest things that help to get us what you see on the screen there.
I think you guys did a great job, and seeing how you guys got nominated again for a second year in a row for the high impact, I think that that's awesome, and I think that these scores show how hard your staff are working, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, first I want to thank the 13 classroom teachers, the 2 SPED teachers, the 3 title teachers, the 7 or 8 pairs we have in our coach. They're the ones who are doing all the hard work. It's amazing how they did that. They're really doing great things. It's kind of weird, Ms. Dunstream, you brought this up. March 18th was the first day we tested. That's exactly 2 months ago. And it was the day after we got like 1 billion feet of snow. So I was just thinking about that. And that's one of the things that kind of stuck in my mind. I'm like, oh, we had 2 snow days before it happened. It's kind of weird. So looking at our oral reading fluency numbers and in 2nd grade. So I'm going to go backwards, right to left on this. So we lost 20 reading plans, which is amazing. Now might not be, because in 3rd grade they also have to pass the forward exam, but they will. They did it amazing on that. So that was a great accomplishment, knocking off 20 reading plans. So we started off the year with 77 and going down to 57 reading plans. Our 3rd grade went up 12 percentage points in their overall growth in reading and literacy. 2nd grade stayed flat, and we retested them last week, and they would have lost 5 more reading plans if they had it in May. So that was great. The second grade struggled a little bit because they weren't sure how to necessarily take this test. And this is the first time doing it, and what we need to do, and kind of going, and one of the things we need to figure out is getting more people in the room with them to test, just so that they can go and take their time more and we can monitor better. That was really important as we went through, but you can definitely see that third grade made great progress, fourth grade finished testing Friday. So it was about a 2-month process, and they made great progress as well. They had a lot of proficient students the way it was. I'll just slide it down a little bit. So once again, vocabulary is a struggle piece, kind of like the middle school too, but they definitely are making progress on that. If we keep going down, math was very similar for all the grade levels. They all made great progress along the way. It's very similar. As a school, we did really well. With the first year of total implementation with our new math program, we definitely have to see what was in the right spots and how it worked out. So we definitely are using it with Fidelity, but we definitely have to check that out. But as we go through, we can definitely see that a lot of great progress was made, and we continue to make progress throughout the entire year. So if you slide down just a little bit, we went, as a year, we went up 11 and 15 for math. So we did do a good job as that. Like I said, that's totally on the entire staff. Second grade, about mid-year, blew up their schedule. We definitely need to continue doing that right away from the get-go next year with we called it a boot camp. It was a double dip in foundational skills. And that was really important to make sure that they didn't even dip. So anyhow, we definitely need to start that right away from the beginning of the year, so that we can get that group where they need to be. Third and fourth grade did a little bit of different things. The reasons why their scores are a little bit different, they also take the forward exam and not just Ames test. So they were also preparing for the forward exam by using heat maps and our standard maps, and we kind of gave them a little bit different pathway for preparing for these two tests compared to second grade. Second grade did a lot of backwards by design work with our coach, and they really delved into the HMH, and they got into that. So they're really doing well with that, but it's really important that eventually they kind of look bigger at their standards as a whole as well. No, he's there. Okay, so a couple of other things. First of all, second grade, it was real early. That's just how we had to take our test. Second and third grade, and that's where we were, middle of March, in middle of a blizzard. So we did our testing. Second grade really did well as they came back and did that again. Third grade, I think, might have been a little bit tested out. They were just kind of like more testing, seriously, and so they kind of, all the students didn't do any real much better, but they kind of were kind of status quo. We definitely have to start that boot camp at the beginning again. We definitely need to continue what we put in. It's called an achievement block. It's where we did all of our main writing, and it was based off of the forward exam writing rubric. So they did a lot of writing, and that was really important. We need to just add more staff when we're taking these tests. We try to use everybody we possibly could when they were administering these tests, but sometimes it just didn't always happen. But at least we had 2 people. But the more we can get in these rooms as possible, just to get these students more comfortable taking these tests. I know in first grade, definitely they were starting to prepare for second grade. Of like, hey, what can we do to help you take these tests for the fall, so that they're more comfortable. but definitely using the heat maps and the standard maps is important so that everybody knows what they're working on and when they hit these standards along the way. Otherwise, I'm really proud of all the work that everybody did at North Elementary. They put in a lot of time. They really worked hard to make sure what they were doing was best for the students each and every day.
So as Mr. Waniger is walking up there, just so everyone's aware, for KK in first grade, the tests are individual with the student, one proctor, one student. So when Mr. Fear was talking about the test change, what changes when you get to second grade, they take it on their Chromebooks individually in Android. So just that's kind of a change in the testing. Same Ames web test, just a different way that it's proctored for students.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Mike Waninger. For those of you that are new, I'm the principal at West Elementary. So I want to start, we kind of have, like Ms. Stutstrom just said, we have 4K through 1 at West. So we have kind of 3 different data stories that I want to go through tonight, and I'm going to start with 4K. Our 4K team worked really hard this year and ended up with some really great data, and some of that data isn't present on this sheet because, especially in math, we only tested concepts and applications and quantity total fluency in 4K on this sheet, but we have some other data such as our number naming fluency, which our 4Kers reached 93% proficiency in by the end of the year, which essentially says that our 4Kers are entering kindergarten and they know their numbers, which is awesome. Our 4K team was really effective in meeting weekly and altering their instruction and giving high amounts of academic instruction in 4K, which you may not see in other places. 4K is sometimes looked at as kind of more of a daycare than an academic institution, and here we really pride ourselves in our 4K program. I truly believe that it's one of the best 4K programs in the area. So our 4K team, I just wanted to shout them out. They did an excellent job this year with their data. Secondly, I'm going to jump into kindergarten, and as you can see as you go down through those percentages of student growth, you see one red number on our list, and that was our kindergarten ELA data at that -9%. I do want to highlight that per the Act 20 law, like Ms. Stutstrom said before, we have to give that ELA test earlier in March than we have previously done. So that is the data that was reflective of our kindergarten's proficiencies in ELA in March. Since then, and since seeing that number, we have put a few different action steps in place to react to it and to make it better. We broke down what's called the foundational skills section of their HMH into reading curriculum in a couple of the kindergarten classes where we saw high need. And we had the classroom teacher, the academic para in that room, and a push-in title teacher in each of those rooms come in, and we took a foundational skills section, which is traditionally taught in a large group scenario by a single teacher, and we broke it down into a rotation of 3 different groups. And the academic para, the classroom teacher, and the title teacher were teaching those groups during that foundational skills time. And that foundational skills is so important. I mean, it's called foundational skills, right? That's where our young readers learn how to decode, and they learn how to blend, and they learn the basis of reading. And that was highly effective. So we've done that intensively for the last 2 months since March. And our data, again, that's not reflected on here because we did some retesting in kindergarten, paper copy retesting. Shout out to instructional coaches Courtney Berger and Stacey Muir. Did all of that retesting, calculated all of the data, and we ended up with what would have been a decrease in reading plans in kindergarten. As you can see, the number of reading plans in kindergarten as of March was 13. It would have gone down to what is now. It's okay. Got me? Check? Got me? All right. So after that intensive intervention that we did in kindergarten, our reading plans went down from what was 13 reading plans in March to what would be 6 reading plans now. Now, that's not going to show on the state data because per Act 20, like I said, our Ames Web data in March is what goes to the state. But we know now, as per our retesting, that we dropped those reading plans, and our Tier 2 students went down from 21 Tier 2 students in March to 13 Tier 2 students right now. So we have made a ton of gain, and actually that one red number up there has completely flipped now. As of right now, we have 84 of 103 kindergartners proficient in their ELA. And if you do the math, that's 82%, which is the magic 80% mark. So we're really, really proud of that. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to achieve that in March, but through some of the things that we put in place with our instructional coaches and our title program and our academic paras, because I do not want to sell them short, our paras in K and 4K this year have been so incredibly valuable, and it just kind of opens the door to what we can do with them going into next year. Because running groups like I just described in that foundational skills section has shown that we can make huge gains really quickly. So I just wanted to highlight that for our kindergarten class. I'll jump then into our first grade class now. Our first grade class, as you can see, in ELA had a plus 1% growth from our winter data. I want to shout out and highlight our first grade teachers, because our first grade teachers undertook something this year that is kind of unprecedented. As a lot of you know, and for those of you that don't, that might be new, we lost a first grade teacher back in October, right before I got there. And throughout most of the winter, we were kind of shuffling in various long-term subs, short-term subs, anybody that we could do to fill that position. And come late February, we had a long, hard discussion in a PLC with the team where members of the first grade team said, "This is enough. We don't want to see this anymore. There are 20 students in that class that are suffering right now." And it was a very honest conversation, and they said, "We want to take those students on." So in late February, we consolidated that first grade class that didn't have a classroom teacher, and we put those students, spread those students across the other 4 first grade classrooms. That was a huge undertaking that took a lot of courage and a lot of the right mindset. A lot of the right mindset of what we want from all of our educators in our district, because we saw students that were suffering and we made it better. We made it right. If you go back and you peek at the winter data for ELA for first grade, you can see that it was red before, it is now green, and I know it's only 1%, but that is a huge 1% because we took that class and we took it upon ourselves to take those students under our wing and consolidate them and make sure that they get what they need. So,
Can you just,
yep.
October, so first grade teacher left in October, and then in February is when you consolidated?
Yes.
Okay, that's a huge chunk of time in a school year.
Yes.
It's like at a really important, all grade levels are important, but learn to read to learn, we hear about that all the time in the elementary schools.
And first grade is the most important grade for learning how to read.
So that's significant time that those students had a lack of consistency, a lack of structure and expectations, not at the fault of any individual stepping in as a long-term sub, but simply because when you can't have a classroom teacher there all of the time to create that consistency, structure, and routine within the district goals and building goals, that's really difficult. And so I'm really happy that you included that information to share how your staff came together and came up with a solution, because that's a considerable amount of time. And in that short amount of time, then once you came up with a solution and consolidated, you also saw significant growth. So I am very appreciative to your staff on behalf of the board. I think all of us are very appreciative to that. And congrats on seeing that outcome and seeing that you are no longer going to allow this vacancy to impact academic achievement, because that's what we are all here for, is student achievement. So thank you for sharing and including that.
Yeah, I cannot shout out our first grade team enough for making that decision and taking it upon themselves to do that. And then we can jump down to our math data. Our math data continues to skyrocket, which is awesome. As some of the principals before me spoke, we have adopted the illustrative math curriculum in our elementary levels, and this is our first year in implementation. And I know I said this in the winter meeting as well, and I'm going to say it again, to see this jump and this increase in numbers in year one of implementation of a resource is really unheard of. Year one of resources are usually not this effective, and you don't normally see jumps in data like this until year 2 or 3 of a resource. So to see this in year one is absolutely amazing. To piggyback off of that, we're not satisfied with that because we still have a lot of room to go to get to that magic 80% mark, and we're aiming for that. Our guiding coalition this semester has already talked about, we've looked into the illustrative math look-fors and the illustrative math scope and sequence, and we're going to start, continue to look into that going into next year and rolling some of that out to further hone our math curriculum. We want to break down that math curriculum, and this is, I'm kind of going on to the next page here into like verbose solutions. We want to hone that math curriculum, look at what's absolutely essential standard-wise in the curriculum, and develop a really true scope and sequence of what we need to be teaching our kids, and kind of have a deep dive into that curriculum in year 2 to make sure that those numbers continue to go up and to make sure that we can close that gap so we can get down to that magic 80% number. Going back, so that's math. I'll jump into the numbers that show fall, winter, spring. Yep, right there. Thank you. As you can see, all of our numbers have increased, have gotten improved from fall to spring. We started, especially in math, with a significant number of students that scored below grade level, but we had an equally significant increase in 1 year, again in year 1 of implementation of that resource. And we want to see both of those numbers in literacy and math continue to grow going forward. Some of the challenges that we had this year, as I already talked about, were loss of that first grade teacher. We took care of that through consolidation of the classes. We had a high percentage of students that entered the school year performing below the benchmark, especially in mathematics. Moving forward, we're going to continue to utilize that Ames Web data to create targeted tier 2 and tier 3 intervention groups. That kind of what we did with the kindergarten literacy group this year in having an intensive support kind of shows us what we can do in the future when we have that situation where we can throw support into that room, and we have a model now that we can follow to continue to make increased improvements going forward, and specifically in that foundational skills portion of our resource. That foundational skills, as I said before, is so incredibly important. That's where our kids learn how to blend and decode, which ultimately leads to reading fluency once they've practiced it enough. So I believe I've covered
So I'm assuming we're not the only ones affected by the having to test in March, and we have some really good data of what that did. I'm assuming that's getting passed to DPI?
Yes, so it's dependent on your school calendar. So if your school goes into June, you count 45 days back, and that's when you have to have testing completed by. So because we end in May, it pushes ours back earlier. Other school districts do test in the same in March as we do, but it's all dependent on your school calendar.
Right, but 45 days is a lot, no matter if that's March, April.
It's a lot of learning time.
Right.
Especially at the end of the year, especially for our littles too, at the end of the year, because they've had so much instructions throughout the year, those last couple of months are so vital for our early learning readers, and our data shows it, so.
Right. We have really good data to support that this is maybe not the best time frame.
Feedback to DPI has been given.
Thanks. I figured as much, but I just wanted it. Yes, fantastic.
Members, school board members don't always get to see and have all those conversations with us. So we appreciate your time, the community's time for listening. Any last questions?
I don't have questions, but I very much appreciate the time and the detail put into these presentations. The Board of Education is here to focus on student achievement and academic outcomes, and the detailed reports that are provided to us don't sugarcoat where we are. They show where our deficits are, but you connect. We are not teaching for a test. We are doing assessments, and we are reviewing data on a weekly basis, and we are modifying, pivoting, addressing, finding patterns, identifying best fits or approaches. So we are using that data very, very intentionally. It's not just a meeting to meet. I heard working towards fidelity several times. I know that was kind of a joke in many of our buildings in the past, was like, it's just the current greatest thing. But we're working with intentionality. And again, this is our primary role, is academic achievement. And so this, in my opinion, is these three data reports are the most important meetings. Not just for the Board of Education, but for our community, to see what we're doing, that we're not going to sugarcoat, and that we are also going to highlight and celebrate our successes as we as adults continue to seek that 100% at or above. So to our admin team, to our building admin, to our staff, and to our students and families, thank you for your commitment to academic outcomes and showing the growth. So thank you very much.
Thank you to all of our staff. They work really hard.
Okay. Up next, we have the Director of Pupil Services and Special Education. Mrs. Wagner is present if there are any questions about her report. Up next, we have the Director of Technology. Mrs. Mushak is available virtually if there are any questions regarding her report. Okay, up next is the superintendent report. It is attached. I'll do a brief overview. April and May are filled with lots of meetings regarding staffing. With the current construction going on at John H. Bradley, Jake and I have also met with Sue Govier, who is working with us on decorating, and she is also doing our bid for FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. The bid package was sent out, and it's due back to central office May 28th. We're already working with Myron on what that schedule will look like and where staging will take place for the furniture to be put together and assembled and placed in the classroom, so that none of our staff is responsible to do that. So that will be coming soon. We had our last graduation meeting with the team at the Antigo High School. They work very hard. A big shout out to them to make sure that everything is polished. The programs are going to be done in-house this year from our CTE department, so we're very excited about that. Mr. Doucette and his students will be working on those. And they, Miss Michelle Napcavage and Amanda Moore, along with Mrs. Borneman, have put in a lot of effort to try to make sure that everything is in alignment, and Miss Amy Whitman. So a big shout out to them as well, as we are quickly approaching graduation, and I hope to see everyone there Friday night. The ceremony begins at 5 o'clock. So please try to be there by 4:15 for graduation pictures. More about staffing, Ms. Stutzery, Ms. Fassbender, Ms. Wagner, and I have been working on placement of staff, and Jade has also been part of those conversations as we work to update WeCan. We do currently have a vacancy in the Human Resources Assistant position, so we're all pitching in and filling in to make sure that we don't lose candidates, that we're getting things scheduled, that we are getting contracts out. And it takes the whole village of us, so that takes up a lot of different meeting times throughout the week, multiple times. The next thing is we updated the school calendar to include work days for support staff. That will be posted once it's updated to the approved calendar to the website, so that all staff are aware of what that is. We had a luncheon for appreciation for our principals and associate principals for their appreciation day. I had a coffee meeting with a community member, and Ms. Stutzery and I had a meeting with Mr. Jokes through Leader in Me, where we were awarded the $30,000 grant. We have another meeting coming up to talk about who the coach will be for the Antigo School District, so exciting times coming with that. Also, you'll see linked updated construction photos each month, and we also update those each week, I believe, on our website. Myron takes those photos and then gives an explanation of what each of those pictures, what rooms they are, so that they're uploaded on our website, so that the community has an idea of where we are in the progress of getting the construction project completed. We spent half a day working with new board members on orientation. Information was shared with them to help prepare for positions on the board. Directors introduced themselves and explained their roles and responsibilities. Board President Danny Pyatt and myself presented the orientation information, and a light lunch was provided. Routine principal meetings, and we also have held interviews for the principal position for John H. Bradley. No decision has been made yet, and there will be follow-up interviews coming. So, any questions about the superintendent report?
I don't have a question, but I just want to make a remark. So many of you know that my daughter's a senior this year. She's my youngest, and she has made the request that I participate as a mother, not as a school board member. So I will be there, but I'll be in the audience, being a mom versus being on stage as a school board member. So I just wanted everybody to know. So if you see me there and I'm not on stage, that's why. So
thank you for that. And it is a memorable time, so you should be rightfully in your spot as a mom. Okay, up next we have discussion regarding the process for filling the vacant school board seat. Would anyone like to make a motion as to what that process would look like? I know when...
It's not a motion.
What, Danny?
Just information.
Just information. So will the same process be followed as what happened when Mr. Peterson's vacancy happened?
Correct.
Okay.
So as we see, the public content there is the letters of interest are submitted to the district office beginning tomorrow and through 3 p.m. on June the 5th. And then the board will have a special called meeting on Monday, June 8th, in which we will interview those individuals who submitted letters of interest. And that meeting will begin no earlier than 6 p.m. because that will follow the 3 committee meetings in June. And then, as you see attached there, the process for filling a board vacancy is there for the community to see as well.
So then this member would be up for election in the next election, correct? So we would have 4 vacancies that we'd be voting for in April. just want to clarify that because it's a little bit different than Mr. Peterson.
Mr. Peterson's. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, any further discussion about the board vacancy? Okay, moving on to item number 6, board action. Letter A, consideration to approve the second reading of Neola Draft Policy 5460, graduation requirements.
I move to approve the second reading of Neola Draft Policy 5460 graduation requirements.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Are there questions? Okay, hearing none. The voting is now open.
It's the wrong one on there. I don't want them to continue voting. So Deanna is updating it right now.
We can't do that. No, it'll have to go
On to next month.
on the next monthly meeting.
Okay, then I need somebody to amend that to say it's not active starting now after this meeting, or our seniors are going to have a problem.
What isn't correct? Can we,
Is it the attachment that's not correct?
then,
The verbiage under the motion is correct?
Yes.
What needs to be corrected in the attachment? Sorry, Kristen.
no, you're,
It just needs to be the correct attachment. The correct language. That was through the first read last time.
So what's the difference then? Like, what's this version?
So this one is a second read, and it's a different policy than what was presented at the first reading. So in order for it to be passed, we have to have 2 readings. So can we not change that language? Can someone make a motion to change the language to what was read at the first reading of the policy? Danny?
I'd like to amend the motion that's on the floor. And the motion that I'd like to offer for, can I make this amendment?
Sure.
I move to approve the second reading of the Neola Draft Policy 5460 that was presented at the April board meeting, April 2026 board meeting.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, just to clarify, according to the principal, building principal, and curriculum instructor, director, we need to have this taken care of tonight rather than put it off. So that's why I offer this amendment to this main motion.
Yes.
Okay, so I wasn't here for the last meeting. I will be really honest, I didn't read the grad policy. I was told it was changing. However, the attachment that is attached to tonight's meeting is not accurate and not what you looked at in April. So I don't know the logistics of that, but if you vote to approve that and you don't put a time on there, that would mean that tomorrow it's active, and I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So however you'd like to do that, great, but it cannot be enacted until after the 22nd.
so can we, what is the correct verbiage to move this to the June meeting? Because that would be fine then, correct?
I believe you could also say that you are voting to approve the second reading of the policy that was presented in April.
April.
I forget which date that was. And be very specific about that first reading.
But if it's not time sensitive, then we would have the correct attachment. It would be better to just vote for it, vote on it in June. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that
You just can't approve
This one.
this to start before the 22nd.
okay. Do you have my order of operations? How do we?
Well, the amendment is what's on the floor right now, and that is to approve the second reading from the April board meeting,
April 20th.
April 20th board meeting. That's what's on the
That would have
floor.
been the first
reading.
That would have been the first reading, yeah, to approve what was attached on the first reading in April the 20th. Yeah.
Ms. Stutzriem and Ms. Borneman, did you all look at the attachment on the April board meeting agenda to make sure that it's accurate?
Oh.
The April 1st reading was okay.
You can't open it, Ms. Stutzriem? Would you like to come and see my computer and see what it is?
Otherwise, Glenda, I got it pulled up, I can pull it, put it on the screen here. Oh, here it comes.
This is what it looks like.
Got a lot of weird vertical writing.
Yeah.
That's the one that's currently attached, not the one from April, correct?
This was the April.
This is
No,
from,
that's from April.
This is from April. Oh, yeah, that looks really bad.
So again, I wasn't here in April, and I wasn't part of this process, but I don't even know if I can say this. The recommendation would be to table it until June. Sorry.
So do we have to vote on the amendment first?
could I take the amendment from the table? In order to take the amendment from the table, it does take a vote. And you can do that in voice vote.
So there will be a voice vote to remove the amendment from the table. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those not in favor, nay. Okay.
You can't table it, because if you table it, you have to pick it back up in the same meeting. What we can do is postpone it. So I move to postpone, I'm sorry,
5460.
postpone,
5460.
I move to postpone item 6A to the June regularly scheduled board meeting.
And then that gets voted.
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions? Would you like to speak more to your motion?
No, I think everybody knows the reason why this is happening.
Jill, did you have something?
I just appreciate, this is a difficult meeting without having a board president, and I appreciate that Mr. Pite and Ms. Mamiller are working to share parliamentarian knowledge and processes, because this is super important and we have to get it right. And it feels, as a board member, it feels really odd because we don't have direction. So tying to the importance of making sure we get it right, thank you for stepping in to help guide the process in this, in the interim of not having a board president.
Agreed. Okay. With no further discussion, the voting is open.
It says
You're voting on to postpone this to the June board
To the
meeting.
June board meeting.
Okay. Does that matter that that's not what that says up there?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that matters, so we can't vote on that right there, right? Because that says to approve.
No, it matters what she puts in the minutes.
It's an amendment to that.
It's amendment.
Okay.
To what that is.
Okay.
Because that's what's already been put in the agenda, so it's been amended. So the vote is for the amendment,
Okay,
which is to postpone it to the June
Okay.
meeting.
okay.
Okay. Would anyone like to change their vote? Okay, Nathan? Okay, motion passes.
Now that becomes your main motion.
And now what?
You have
We
to vote one
vote-
more time on that, because
Okay.
that now becomes your main motion.
So does someone have to say it?
No.
You do? Okay, so now our main motion is to consider moving the Neola Policy 5460 graduation requirements to the June meeting. Okay. Nathan? Okay. The voting is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? Okay, Nathan? Okay, motion approved. Okay, item B, student handbook updates for 26-27.
I move to approve the recommended updates to the Antigo High School Student Handbook as presented. I'll defer comments to Mrs. Borneman.
There weren't really many updates. We did ask staff for their opinion, and the biggest update was that instead of 10 minutes to be tardy, they wanted it to be 5 minutes, and then after that, you're considered absent, so you only have 5 minutes to be tardy. Other than that, we cleaned up a little bit of language that students or families had found confusing, but there weren't any big changes.
And all of those changes have been highlighted, correct? Okay.
They're all in yellow.
How does that time frame compare to the middle school for tardy?
Oh, good question. I am not sure, but I can find out.
Just more of a curiosity that there's consistency. I would give them a little bit more leeway than the high school, but I was just curious.
So part of the reason that staff had asked for it to go from 10 minutes to 5 minutes is our frequent students who are found in the hallway or in the bathroom say, well, I have 10 minutes to get there, or I have 9 minutes to get there. So we found that it was our high flyers or a core group, not the bulk of our students. The bulk of our students were there within 5 minutes.
So at the committee meeting, that stuff was highlighted, but I'm not seeing those highlights in this unless I've got the wrong thing. But at the committee meeting, I saw those.
Yep, so I was going to share that this was brought to committee. Ms. Boardman was unable to appear, but communicated that beforehand and spoke with me about the changes that I did report out in committee. I'm wondering if perhaps I was looking to Mr. Prezek as well. I thought I saw the technology one was still highlighted.
Correct.
That is just how I was asked to put it in there in the yellow to make it pull up for parents. So that wasn't changed.
Correct, yeah, it's just indicating where the change is, but the one with the change, you're just saying it's not highlighted in here. Like, the font is not highlighted as, because I see the change on page 1, you know, like that update has been added.
So when I look at version history, it looks like it was edited by someone who was not me after the committee meeting, so I'm wondering if they took out the bolded.
So we're looking on page 8 and 9, correct?
Yeah, I went back to the older version. And so you're looking at 8 and 9, where it's changing. And then motto and the vision were updated with the logo, and then my name was taken off the first page.
So on top of page 9, that is correct, where that second paragraph where it's changed to 5 minutes, is that?
So if your student misses any portion of 5 minutes or longer, yes.
So that's the proposed change?
Because the sentence before has 10 minutes. About being tardy to school as opposed to being tardy to class. Okay.
Yep, sorry, I was just catching up to read that to make sure I was
Yep.
telling you the right thing. So yes, if you're there right away in the morning, it's 10 minutes. After that, once you're in the building, it's 5 minutes on top of the 3 minutes, so it's 8 minutes. Sorry. And then the other part was, we won't be starting tardies until the second week of school. In the past, we put a date in there. This way, we don't have to keep catching the date the second week of school. And then students with 10 or more tardies in 1 month will be placed on an attendance plan, and parents will be notified. That hasn't been in there before. It's something that we've been doing, and it's been helping, so we just wanted to put it in there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. Okay, any further questions?
How does the cell phone or device policy that's highlighted, how does that compare to the state law that's been rolled out? And are you having issues with devices in the building?
I would definitely say they're down this year. I don't have the exact numbers from year to year because we do track that. The only thing that, it follows the state policy or the state law that's coming down that's required to start in July. It doesn't talk about if our SRO would be involved at all, but the state law doesn't clarify. They made it a law, right? So it doesn't specify if your SRO needs to be involved or not. So until we get more clarification, we just wanted to make that firm.
Thank you.
Do you want numbers on how many cell phone violations we've had this year? I wouldn't be able to get that quickly tonight, but I could get that for you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
No? Okay. Thanks, Trina.
Thank you.
Okay. So, student handbook, any further questions? Okay, if none, the voting is open. Would anyone like to change their vote?
Am I up there?
No.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to change their vote? Hearing none. Nathan? Okay. Item C, 20.
That was item C, just for point of order. There was, B was second, consideration and approve second reading of the Neola Special Update Act 89. That's what I have on mine.
No, that was removed.
Oh, are you on last month?
That was removed. That one should have been the student handbook, item B.
Got it, okay. Then never mind.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The next item is item C, 2026-27, student Chromebooks. I will be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the bid from CDW in the amount of $41,340 for the 2026-2027 student Chromebooks.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, this was also brought to committee. It's the same device being requested. Notably, the number of devices is nearly cut in half or cut in half. That is just alignment with devices and students moving. So they'll get assigned a new device when they move into a new school building to streamline things. The other thing of importance is there is an inventory shortage from all tech companies, so it's important to move on this now. But I'm noting that the number is less because we should anticipate, I didn't ask this, I don't think, but
next year's number is probably going to be more because we're cutting it in half because of that new build and just aligning a new device when you transition to a new building, so.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none. The voting is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? Okay, hearing none. Nathan? Okay, motion is approved. Thank you. Item D.
Can I interrupt for a second? I'm not sure what the appropriate way to interrupt is, but I'm thinking about the next meeting. My understanding from Robert's rules is that when you have a chair pro temp, that expires at the end of the current meeting. So what happens at the beginning of the next meeting if we have to
We have
assign
to
a new
vote for
chair
another
pro
chair
temp?
pro tem.
And that happens just
At the very beginning of the meeting,
magically by,
at the very beginning of the meeting, the next meeting will start with a vote of the chair pro tem. The previous chair will open the meeting, and then we'll vote for a chair pro tem.
thank you.
Okay, item D. 2026-27 firewall upgrades. I will be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the bid from Camera Corner in the amount of $31,929.42.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. So this was also brought to committee. It's basically a digital security guard. It is E-rate eligible, so that helps offset our cost. And it's good for 5 years and includes the animal updates.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Voting is now open. Okay, would anyone like to change their vote? Okay, Nathan? Motion passes. Okay, item E, report of donations. I'll be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the report of donations, $600 from Nancy and Ronald Family Foundation for the Drama Club scholarships. And I would like to speak on my motion to express appreciation on behalf of the board for the generosity of the donor for the purpose of Drama Club scholarships. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I agree. Go ahead.
I just have one question. With the seniors receiving the different scholarships, do they lose access to their email accounts right away? Because I found that some of the things that Trinity has on her, in her school email, she needs to transfer over to her personal email. And if our students are aware that they're going to lose access to their school email.
We're talking about that again tomorrow.
Okay.
They've been talking about that.
Okay.
They do lose access. I don't have the exact date from Mrs. Mushak. I don't know, Kesha, if you're still on.
I think Kesha is still on, isn't she? Kesha, can you hear the question?
I was wondering when is the cutoff date for our seniors to be losing access to their school emails? So that they, regarding their school scholarship information that they need.
They will be cut off on their last day, and we have sent them directions on how to obtain backup of any relevant content that they would need access to. If there have been instances where someone needs access to documentation after graduation, we certainly work with them.
Okay. So am I understanding you correctly so senior's last day is tomorrow? Unless there's different circumstances involved, or is it when they graduate? Sorry, I'm just looking for specific.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm thinking through that. I think we've technically done it on the official last day of school.
So the end of the school year.
Okay.
Last year was the last
Okay, and they've been told that multiple times?
They got the directions, and tomorrow we have our last senior meeting in the vault.
Okay.
We're gonna go over it one more time.
Okay,
But we have had instances where we've had a student come in and we've had to turn it back on and help them work through that process because there's a lot.
sure. Yeah, there's a lot and, yeah. Okay. Right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I do believe did we vote on the donations?
Nope, not yet. Any other questions? Okay. Nathan, can you open the voting devices? Voting is open. Would anyone like to change their vote? Nathan? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next we'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Before that, I'm curious on how this board is going to set the agenda for the following meeting. We don't have a board president, nor do we have a board.
Superintendent will have to work with district council.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
This is going to be a 3-ring circus.
Thank you, Amy.